All righty, welcome everybody to the IU Hoops halftime report. As your Indiana Hoosiers currently up 24-19 at halftime. But I tell you what, that was some ugly offensive basketball. But let's not dwell on the negative. I think the biggest storyline for me in that first half was just how well and how intense consistently for 20 minutes Indiana played defensively. And that's, what makes that really impressive, and how connected they were defensively, and how many turnovers they forced, and how few easy looks Northwestern got. Was you had a lot of lineups in there that don't play a lot together. I mean, Clifton Moore was out there for a decent stretch, and he hasn't played a lot with guys. Juwan Morgan pretty much plays in every lineup, and he wasn't out there. So for Indiana to maintain their continuity on defense against a really, really experienced Northwestern team, and to do what they did, I thought was really, really impressive. Northwestern scoring 0.57 points per possession. You talk about this program shifting and transitioning to a new identity. In a game like today where you're shooting 30% and Juwan Morgan only plays 2 minutes, yet you're up 5 against a team that was in the NCAA tournament last year and has a lot of those players back. So there's a lot that you can nitpick with and quibble with in that first half, especially offensively. But all things considered, I'm really pleased to see what Indiana was able to do there in the first half, because what we saw against Penn State, what we saw against Minnesota, was a team that was really starting to, I think, understand how it was going to have to play to win, be tough and be gritty, and it wasn't going to be pretty. And that's certainly what we've seen in the first half. So, hat tip to the guys for taking some real challenges there and turning them into a 5-point lead. That was really nice to see. Obviously, it was nice at the end of the half there to get that little boost from Colin Hartman and Robert Johnson knocking in those 3-pointers, because up until that point, Indiana was 2 for 11 from downtown, I think. And so they really needed to hit those, which puts them at 30.8% for the game, 4 for 13, which is sadly roughly about what they've been shooting for the season. Look, if Indiana's going to keep taking that many 3-pointers, they're going to have to make more of them. But what I really hope that we see in the second half with Juwan Morgan back in there is smarter offense against the zone that Northwestern is playing, because we are seeing Indiana settle a lot for threes, pass it a lot around the perimeter, not really probe inside as much, not get the ball in there at the foul line. And part of that is just, you don't have a lot of guys with experience doing it. Juwan Morgan is a guy who can do that. Justin Smith is a guy who has shown the ability to do that. They played a combined 8 minutes. And so when you're playing a lot with Freddie McSwain in there and with Clifton Moore in there and some of these guys that aren't that comfortable against the zone, you're going to have some struggles there. And so that's why it was smart for Northwestern to play it. I think Colin Hartman was trying to do some of those things. And, he did have a really nice drive on one possession that scored a bucket. And he probably tried to force a few too many things. And we saw him turn the ball over a couple of times there. So I think that's the big adjustment for Indiana offensively, and hopefully just having Juwan back in there will be big. And, I've quit. And, same with Zach McRoberts. I mean, he's a guy, he also only played 2 minutes. So, you look at this, 3 of Indiana's starters, Zach McRoberts, Juwan Morgan, Justin Smith, pick up 2 fouls. They play a total of 10 minutes. So you only get 10 out of a possible 60 minutes from those 3 guys, and you're up 5. And I am not a big fan of Archie Miller's strategy of a guy gets 2 fouls and he doesn't play for the rest of the half. I think it kind of worked out in a situation like this, only in so much as Indiana had the lead. But then you look at it from the flip side, and it's, if Juwan Morgan is able to get a few more minutes out there, maybe that one run is a little bit longer, or if you kind of try and sprinkle in a little Zach here and a little Justin Smith there, is this a 7-point lead, a 9-point lead, instead of the 5-point lead that it is? So I tend to feel like at the end of the day, you end up getting fewer minutes out of your best players when this is your strategy. But it didn't really bite us in the butt here, because we were able to go to halftime with a 5-point lead. So we'll see how that plays out in the second half. Devontae Green is a guy who really interested me in the first half. He played 16 minutes. I thought he really gave Indiana a spark when he first got in there. I think his defense was excellent in the first half. He had 4 steals. He was active. He was containing dribblers. I mean, I just thought defensively it was one of the better halves he's put together. On the flip side, offensively, he in particular looked really lost to me against the zone. Looked like he really struggled with what to do when he got the ball inside against the zone. He kind of put up a few flaccid floaters that really didn't have a chance to even really go in, and almost looked like I don't know. Shots, it's almost like when he took them, he knew that they weren't good shots and that they weren't taken with confidence. But, he took 3 threes, 1 of 7 from the field. I think we're going to need more from him here as we go in the second half, especially offensively. And another guy that we got to tip our cap to is Freddie McSwain Jr., who played 13 minutes there in the first half, really did some nice things defensively. And for a long time, until Robert Johnson and Colin Hartman hit those 2 3-pointers, he was Indiana's leading scorer. And what was cool about it was the 2 buckets he made were buckets that Freddie doesn't usually make. He was on the one, it was on a drive. Robert Johnson hit him and he had to take a couple steps and he hit that, kind of wild layup. Then on another one, he did get the ball at the free throw line and made a drive and hit a bucket. So those are not the kind of shots that Freddie McSwain usually makes. And he also has 5 rebounds, only turned the ball over once, has a couple of assists. So some nice minutes from Freddie. So, I thought the bench obviously helped Indiana out when you're up 24-19 and 3 of your starters only play 10 minutes. That's obvious. And Indiana's bench outscored Northwestern's bench 15-0. And then the other thing is the turnover battle. Indiana winning the turnover battle right now, as Northwestern has 11 turnovers, I believe. Indiana with 7. And so points off turnovers in the lead for Indiana 9-5. Rebounding about even for Indiana. And again, when it's a lot of Indiana's bench players playing against a lot of starters for Northwestern, being about even in rebounding is going to be A-okay. So I think obviously the keys for the second half, Indiana's got to keep its best players on the floor more. So Juwan, Zach, Justin, I think they need to be a little bit smarter, not pick up fouls. One of Juwan's was on a moving screen. He's got to be smarter than that. Pick up a foul, battling for a rebound, playing hard defense inside, not on a moving screen. And then Indiana just needs to be smarter on offense, get better looks. In that first half, Indiana took 43.3% of their field goal attempts from 3-point range. Hopefully by the end of the game, that number is back in the 30s because the balance has shifted in the second half and there's a lot more shots inside for Juwan Morgan, Zach McRoberts getting offensive rebounds and leading to second chance points. And hopefully the guards then are able to do a little bit more driving as well. And then the defense just has to stay. I mean, Indiana has to continue playing this kind of intense, connected, just really focused defense. And if they can do that, a win is obviously there for the taking. But Northwestern's not going to go away. They're a veteran team. They've got, balanced scoring. So Indiana's going to have to bring that same intensity here in the second half. Hopefully they do. And hopefully with the starters playing more minutes, it ends up leading to a victory. All right. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of the Halftime Report. Join me on the post-game show. Andy will be there for sure. Ryan's availability is a little bit up in the air depending on how things go with the NFL game this afternoon, but hopefully he'll be there with us as well. So you can watch that on our homepage, assemblycall.com, or right here on our YouTube channel. So we hope to see you there, and hopefully it's a victorious episode here for the Hoosiers. Talk to you all then.